I think it's really important to keep your focus on the right things. You know, it's so easy in the media industry to get lost and get astray and wander off brand and end up in places that you really aren't serving the purpose that you started with.
That's the voice of Charley Humbard, our guest on this week's edition of Conversations from Studio 5, and thanks to him, there are some big changes in the uplifting entertainment world. The founder and longtime leader of Up Entertainment is stepping away from the Faith Forward network, known for its original films and series. I talk one-on-one with him about his legacy and his retirement.
So, sitting here today, you're about to say goodbye to something you created. How's that feel?
I guess I'd compare it maybe to your kid going to college and never coming back home. No, it's certainly an emotional moment for you. You know, I've thought about it a lot. It's been a plan. It's not something I just decided to do overnight. But it's still very emotional. You know, it's when you are a CEO, but you're also the founder, it really is your baby. You know, it was something I birthed and worked so diligently for many years to get built, you know, with a great team now. And I'll miss the people, you know, coming in every day and seeing good people that are driven by purpose. So it's going to be a big change in life. Haven't done this before.
So it was what, 2004?
We went on the air in October of 2004.
2004.
But I started the journey of raising money in early 2002 because I'd left Discovery after 9/11. Decided that this is what I wanted to do, was start Gospel Music Channel.
Right.
And so that journey of raising money was a little over 2 years as well. So I've been doing this a long time now. It's 22 years of CEO and 2 years of raising money.
We've come a long way from GMCC.
The company has grown in a lot of ways, a lot of new brands now. Even since we spoke last, we've become the leading streaming service now for faith and family. We've grown a Hispanic network called Cine Romantico. We have the Gaither network now with us, so Gaither Plus, which is a streaming service, Aspire Plus. So a lot of different brands now, but all still serving the same audience, which we measure at about 60 million persons 2+ that are seeking this kind of programming in America.
Let's go back to the beginning, if you will, so people understand your faith connection. You're the son of the very first televangelist, correct?
Right, I go way back to that. Dad started on TV in the 50s. He was in radio in the 40s. But he was a minister his whole life. He started preaching as a young kid at 12, like they used to do, I guess, for his dad. But right, I grew up in that house with Rex Humbard and on television, you know, from the time I was 5, 6 years old. It was the first TV special I hosted with my sister Liz. We took people in the footsteps of Jesus around the Holy Land. That was a worldwide broadcast in the late 60s. So I had the opportunity to grow up and learn so much watching Dad as a great example of how to live it and really how to speak to people and spread the important message.
Do you think he saw this for you?
It was great that Dad lived long enough that he, was there at our launch. I remember him at the launch. There was a small group of us, probably about 15 employees at the time. And his talk to all of us was, honor God in all your ways and He'll direct your path. And so that's something I've always kept alive here at the company, that very thought, that scripture, because I think it's really important to keep your focus on the right things. You know, it's so easy in the media industry to get lost and get astray and wander off brand and end up in places that you really aren't serving the purpose that you started with. So I think that was really great, to have that experience with Dad and have him for at least the first 3 years. The last thing he said to me before he passed away was, hang in there, man.
How would you say this industry's landscape has changed through your eyes over the years? We go back to 2004. Here we sit, 2025, 2026, really. How's it changed?
I think it's how hasn't it changed, right? I started in the cable industry in the 80s. So right after HBO got launched, that was the first cable channel. And I've lived literally through this business cycle of the rise and now kind of the fall of linear cable. So the way people watch things has changed dramatically. But what's interesting, because I've been at Discovery Networks, Turner Networks over the years. But what I've always noticed is what was happening all along is people have always wanted what they want, when they want it, and where they want it. And what was the holdup was technology. But now technology has enabled us to get what we want, when we want it, and where we want it. So the desire by people didn't really change the viewing habits. It was technology had to catch up to what they really wanted anyhow. We all like to operate on our own schedules, not someone else's. We like to find the things we want to watch when we want to watch. And now we're also mobile, right? That we want to watch it where we want to watch. So those have always been driving principles, I think, in the consumer side. And now we have technology that allows us to do that. So at Up Entertainment, that's what we have done, is diversified into all of these different ways that people can get great content by those three rules.
Has this made your work harder or easier?
I think it's made it, you have to work harder to stay current, to stay knowledgeable, because technology is now moving so quickly that as a CEO or really any of the leadership here at the company, I think you have to work harder than you ever have before at keeping yourself educated and not being something that holds the business up, right? Because it's not just about making great content now. You have to understand the platforms and all the new players. So a lot of the, it used to just be X number of cable operators and satellite operators you talk to. Now there's, as consumers know, how many platforms, and Tubi, and I could get started here down the line and probably go for 10 minutes on names. But so it's important that we serve all of our customers. They are our customers, so we have to have those relationships. So I do think it is harder these days from the technology standpoint, but you also have so much choice in content. It's a great time for brands like Up Entertainment to stand out, because you could go to Netflix and you don't really think of Netflix as any particular brand other than just a lot of choice. Yeah. But I think it's a great time for brands like Up that stand for something to stand out.
Nice. What's kept you interested? I mean, because there are people who start in industries, and as the industry changes, they lose interest or don't feel that they've got the capacity to keep up.
Right.
What's kept you doing it?
Growth, constantly learning, and purpose. We've since the day I started the company, I know why I come to work. I know the impact that great quality entertainment has on people. So I've always had that purpose to help drive, like those days you didn't want to get up, and come into the office, but it's like, what, we're doing something that matters. So that really helped me, in those days when you just, like anybody else, some days you just don't want to go to the office. But you knew that it had a purpose. And the other part is I love to learn. And this is such a time, like I just talked about, with all the technology changes, all the diversification of content. It's such a great time to be learning and growing. So those two things really keep me going.
Let's, match or compare, if you will. Take me back to the beginning. You start in a basement. How many employees versus where we sit today? How big are we? How small were we?
We were small. We were one. It was me. And the two different funders that I came to introduced me to someone they were using as a consultant, Brad Siegel, who had been the president of Turner. So he brought a lot of knowledge, a lot of great experience. And really, Brad and I were the two partners that got this thing going. So they brought him in to help with me and help me get it started. And we had probably, at the time we launched, about 12 to 15 employees, maybe 3 of them were part-time. So, and it's interesting because when we started with no content. We got funded and became a company in April of 2004, and we launched on the air on the 30th of October that same year. So we went from 0 to 100 in just a few months. So we had to get all the content, make shows, get deals done, get carriage deals done. So it was a lot of work then. We're now at about 135 employees, and we have offices here in Atlanta, New York for ad sales, Chicago ad sales, LA for ad sales and distribution. We're also on in London now with Prime, with Amazon Prime in London. So we're starting to grow internationally as well. I think we're going to probably launch in Canada very soon. So the business has changed dramatically. We have grown a lot kind of horizontally and vertically. A lot of like 7 brands now or 8 brands. as well as distribution in a lot of areas. So it's a very different business than when we launched. We just had our 2 best years ever in revenue, where a lot of cable companies now are not able to say that. We diversified early enough in 2015 into streaming and became really smart about the audience. We've studied them for years, and that really helped us during this time. It's like having a good portfolio if you're an investor at home, right? You don't want to be in just one thing. So it's important that you diversify, and those changes in business, that diversification has helped us be stable and continue to grow.
I love it. If you could, looking back, what was the most trying time?
Trying time in this business comes and goes in seasons, I think. Probably the very beginning was really difficult because you'd never done it before. It had never been done before. It was the first, gospel music channel. And not everybody was receptive to that. Advertisers had moratoriums against advertising in Christian programming, and they saw gospel music channel clearly as that. And our business model was advertising and subscription revenue. And cable operators had never paid for television that had anything about religion on it. So a lot of the viewers may not know that, but most cable networks that are faith-based are free. But we had a different business model because I needed the proper funding to make great content. So this brand would, grow and be something that people have never seen before. So I think those early years of putting that model together. The other thing that was challenging about it was the record labels, along with the music or the radio industry, had segmented what was originally, when I grew up, it was all gospel, but now it was CCR and rap gospel and country gospel, and they all had different stations, they had different labels that treated them all that way. So the idea I had, though, was to go back to what I grew up with and call it It's All Gospel. So we had rock, pop, country, soul, It's All Gospel. And that was a real challenge because the record labels really pushed back at first. The radio stations didn't understand what we were trying to do, but the artists loved it and the consumers loved it. Because just because I listen to a black gospel station doesn't mean I won't like something I'm hearing in CCR. The problem is I never got to hear it on radio. So suddenly we're this place, we brought it all together, and it really just, I think, was the thing that blew us up and really helped us become a brand that was established across all of those segments at one time.
What's been the highest point or the biggest accomplishment you are looking at today?
I think it's where we sit now. I think the business is the best it's ever been. We're really healthy in a very challenging time in media. And seeing the growth of our streaming service, that we can compete with everybody out there and have a streaming service that has the same level of interface for consumers and all that, like Netflix would. So it's a world-class service, but represents content based in faith and family. And I've always believed that you just can't be segmented into like, oh, that's just faith programming. We have to compete with the best programming out there. And I'm really proud of where we are today, that I think we're doing that. That's enabled us to get where we are, just finish our 2 best years, and compete and serve customers that are looking for this.
What program are you most proud of and looking forward to as you walk away now?
The one that's coming up. So first quarter, we launch a new show called Blue Skies. And it's our first in many, many years of a series built in drama. It's fictional, but the viewers will love it because you find a lot of themes around redemption, themes around faith and family. But it's a very commercial, you feel like you're watching CBS prime time. It looks beautiful. Acting is great in it. We got a great star. And the stories, it's a procedural. So you have all of those pieces that people love. Procedurals are proven to work. But then you have the extra secret sauces, we like to say, that we add to it. And that is a faith-affirming values in our shows. So I'm really excited to see how that does. That's going to launch in first quarter of 26. And that will be on Faith and Family. So that'll be on our streaming service. And then it'll air later on our linear channels as well.
How have you maintained that value, that faith, family, in an age where anything goes in media now?
You, as a business leader, keep your focus on your purpose. Not all businesses have a purpose. Ours was founded on a purpose. So that is our North Star, and it's always allowed us to use that as a measuring stick. And we believe here that quality entertainment with character, right, can have an impact on people's hearts and change our world. So it's a very simple process, and you go, okay, we want to do show X, or we want to buy a show from this studio. And you kind of hold it up to that statement. And it's like, does that do that? Will it do that? Will it push the right buttons for our audience that will engage them the right way and the right themes? And what we've never been, though, is preachy, about it. We've always been, I always use this movie Blindside. It was a great example to me. But Blindside was great. If you were a person of faith, you looked at that movie and said, her values are informed by her faith. If you weren't a person of faith, you said, what a great inspirational story. So we try to tell stories like that if you're of faith, it will affirm it. If you're not of faith, you'll lean into it because it's good lessons in life and how to treat people and how to love and these things and how to get through challenges, right? Because the other thing, we're not as perfect TV. And there's perfect TV out there, and they can be perfect TV, but that's not our role. We want to be relatable in our storytelling. And so people take something from it. They spend time with us. None of us have a lot of time. We got a lot of things pulling at us. So when we do engage people, we want them to come away going, I feel really good about watching that.
When did you recognize the power of entertainment to touch people? What moment, what did you see that made the light bulb go off, if you will?
That was in the ministry with my father. He was a preacher, but he knew that quality entertainment wrapped around a message would engage people. And I watched the power of TV then with him on television. The music we had was the best. One Sunday we'd have Johnny Cash, then we'd have Andre Crouch and the Disciples, then we'd have Pat and Debbie Boone. So it was always quality entertainment that engaged the people, and then he could put his message in there to them. So I learned the power of television. It's the most powerful medium in the history of the world to engage people, inform people, and it can be bad. It can do evil things, as we know, and have bad content out there. But I learned that if you could put great messages into it, there's nothing like television to engage people.
Agreed. When talking to folks in the entertainment world, actors, producers, directors, there's always the project that got away that they wish they had. What's out there that Charley wishes we were close, we almost, but we didn't get?
I don't really have one we didn't get. I have one I'm working on now, the story of John Wooden, which I think is going to be really exciting. He was a man of faith, but he was the greatest basketball coach in the history of college basketball. Won 10 national championships. Stories like that, I think, are really great to tell. They have huge impact. They can, if told well. So I'm excited about that. That is in process. So I'll be working on that in the next 6 months to a year, and hopefully coming to theaters. The Wooden story, right? Okay. Never been told the way we're telling. We're telling it as an origin story. So you go back and meet John on the farm when he was like 5 years old, and then follow what really made him as a character, what made him have such strong faith beliefs in his life.
So is that the future for you? You're walking away from this and walking into filmmaking?
I don't think so. That was a project it's a personal project. I also want to do a commercial film on my father's story, because I think it's an amazing story. And it's such a great American story. It's a history story. It's an evangelist story. There's so much in that, and the people he knew and the things he did. And just as an entrepreneur, there's a great story. So I do want to tell that. But I don't know if the future is media or what I'm going to do. I think right now I want to stop and listen, right? And it's interesting. So when I left Discovery after 10 years, it was right after 9/11, and I took a pause. And it's so easy for people in their careers. I call it the gerbil wheel. You jump off one and jump on the next one. But the Bible talks a lot about being still and listening. And I had a chance after Discovery to be still and listen. And a friend came to me when I was driving in a U-Haul with him, moving some furniture, helping him out. And he said, have you ever thought about gospel and Christian music? And at that moment, I knew what I wanted to do. It was like somebody poured warm oil on me, literally. And I went home, started writing a business plan. So I'm going to stop and listen and fish a little bit and ski a lot and see what God may have in store.
All right, we'll be looking forward to that for sure. If you could go back in time and give your younger self some advice, knowing what we know now, what would you say?
Probably listen to my father more, right? He had some really great advice, a lot of wisdom, but when you're a 12-year-old, 14, 15, 16-year-old, you have your own thoughts, your own ideas about what is wise. And I think, listen to your parents. It's especially if they're, good character, God-fearing people, they probably know some things you should hear. And I think, he had little things like, it was like, keep a notepad of the people you meet, and those relationships and those things. And I was never good at keeping up on those kind of things. So I've had so many great relationships over the years that I never maintained. And so I think there's things like that in the wisdom of your parents that if I go back and could do it over as I tell my kids, I know sometimes you don't think I'm that wise, but some things stick. And it's been interesting to see now that my son is 25 and 27 now. At 18, they were like, yeah, whatever your wisdom is, Dad. And now I see them actually acting on those things. And I pointed out to them, I was like, where did you get that? And they go, we were listening.
Nice. And they didn't want to be in Dad's business?
Well, Harry works here. My youngest son works here at Up Entertainment. I don't know if, media is his thing, but he's working in our legal department right now and doing great work. My other son, Dylan, just got a job at a fantastic company called Aristotle, so he's going to be representing them and selling political data to campaigns. He wants to be in politics. He wants to be a senator someday. So what I love about both of them, they both have a heart of service. So ultimately, they both want to end up serving their country or doing something that makes a difference.
How you feeling, college dropout?
Ha! I shouldn't tell you everything. Look, I don't recommend dropping out of college to anyone. But I had been working since I was like 6 in the business, and I'd become an audio engineer at that point. And I went to college, I went to Belmont in Nashville for a year, really to go back and take some things I thought would make me better at what I already knew I wanted to do. So I was already an audio engineer. I thought I would stay in that, so I went back and took music business for a year. Some studio stuff, some music publishing. And I didn't really get to use them until gospel, like 30 years later. But sometimes you never know what school God is putting you through. And it's interesting, the first 20 years of my life, I grew up in the ministry of my father, traveling and speaking as a Humbard family singer, actually. And then I moved into cable, and I ended up working at Discovery and Turner and these different brands, especially fan brands that I started at Discovery, like Science and Wings and these things. And then after 9/11, those two worlds just came together, and it was like, I've been preparing for this my whole life, and I never even knew it.
Mm-hmm. Are you excited about the next chapter? Nervous? How are you feeling?
I'm excited about it. No, I think, look, I look at my life like a movie. There's 3 acts in a movie, right? And 0 to 30 is act 1. 30 to 60 has been act 2. I'm now over 60. And act 3 I'm excited about. I should have more wisdom now, more ability to not just react because I'm on a career track. So I'm excited about, getting smarter, getting wiser, being more adventurous. I've taken up sailing now. I'm sailing different seas around the world as a captain, taking family and friends. And so, it's important in life to keep learning always because you want to be interesting. You want to be interesting to your spouse. You want to be interesting to your friends. You want to attract new friends and have new experiences. And out of that, if, a new career track pops up, I'll look at it.
Mm-hmm. Gonna miss this?
Of course. Yeah, I'll miss the people. I'll miss working in this purpose. But I'm really excited about the future for them. Philip Manwaring is going to be the CEO now, starting in January, and Philip's been with us 17 years. Rita's the COO and president. She's been with us since 2012. So they're both really experienced. They've got the heart for the brand. We've got a fabulous leadership team. So I'm really excited about where the business is and where they can take it. Look, as everybody says, well, it's going to be so different without you. Yeah, it'll be different, but it might be better. No, I really believe that. I believe that I don't care who you are as a CEO, if you're in the same company for a long time, there may not be things that you're doing as well as somebody with fresh vision can have. or can do at your company. And I think it's wise to recognize that. And so I think this change for me is great, and I think the change for them could be really exciting, and a whole new vision for the company around the purpose that we've established, which they hold, steadfast.
Take me inside that decision to walk away. What happened that made you say, now it's time? It's time.
Last year was our 20th anniversary, and I thought that's when I was going to do it. My wife looked at me and said, we don't have enough money, you got to keep working. So just being honest, like, you got another year of work to do. I was like, all right, I'll do it another year. But you can't, to me, look, I'm like 60 now, 63, and if I'm ever going to do anything else or have other experiences, now's the time. And so I'm not one to do something forever. This is the longest I've ever done something by far. And it's not often that a founder CEO stays with a company this long, especially because we were, private equity investment. Normally you're out in 5 years, 3 to 5. So I had the privilege of doing this a long time. But for me, it was about, if I'm going to have a next, it's time.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you.
We wish Charley every blessing in this new chapter. He's left up on the upward swing. We thank you so much for joining us for this week's edition of Conversations from Studio 5. We appreciate you making this your weekly destination for uplifting interviews with a strong focus on faith. Now, for more information, please be sure to check out our Facebook page. You can also find us on Instagram simply by searching Studio 5. Hope you'll join us again right here next week on the podcast.